Oh no, that's kind of sexy. Blech. What is up, y'all? Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about luxury quads and a couple of quints. I had to cut it off. If I did trios and six pans, like we could be here all day, but I looked at my collection and I was like, there's a different way that I think about a quad. It's compact enough and concise enough that I should be able to travel with it and get at least like 2 looks out of it. Something chill and something dramatic, and it not make me want to reach for something else outside of like my powder or my bronzer or my contour on my eyes. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that. The other thing that I think of is like really maximizing the impact of the vision. Like there has to be a concept that's executed on perfectly, and just the stakes are really high with quads and with quints, you know? It's either a hell yes or it's a hell no. And that was what motivated me to go through my collection, pull all of them out, and I want to just separate the wheat from the chaff. Now, when I talk about luxury, I just want to clarify, like we're not talking about like only Dior, like Chanel and stuff. It just basically means like you're not gonna see a bunch of drugstore affordable stuff. It's just not where I shop. There are a million channels out there. I just don't have a lot of stuff from the drugstore. So if you're new to my channel, I just wanted to clarify that, but there's plenty of stuff in here that's regular Sephora price. So I will swatch them for you as necessary. I'm gonna unpack why I feel the way I feel about them, and hopefully this video really saves you some money. I will also try to remember to put all of the prices on the screen. So let's go ahead and jump in. I look like a baby. It's like, look like a baby that someone has edited in one of those like Facetune apps, you know? Everything's like airbrushed, like when you put your baby in a pageant. That's what I look like right now. Okay, so the 2 main things that I'm going to be judging these based on are the formula and the color story and how they work together, you know? But mainly, does it make sense all together? And do the formulas work in a way that I feel like is practical? So, starting with one that's been a quick love for me, this has been a torrid love affair. This is the new Guerlain Ombre G. I don't know how to say G in French. Ombres G 530 Majestic Rose Eyeshadow Quad. At first I was like, wow, why does this appeal to me so much? Wow, why is this so easy to use? And then it occurred to me it is a miniature bronzer, blush, and highlighter palette. That's all it is. So I love this formula, super impressed with it, but it is one of the ones where I'm like, I didn't necessarily need this because I could use blush and bronzer and highlighter for it. So there are the Guerlain swatches. I personally love this palette. I love how the formula goes on because even the mattes, it's 3 mattes and a shimmer, even the mattes have a really lovely blurring quality to them. They have that slight refractive quality, but not shimmery. So they still work to build the illusion of absorbing light, like in the crease, you can use them all over. And then that highlight is this neutral ballerina pink that doesn't go icy, but it is quite impactful on the skin. It reflects light in a very exciting way. This is a winner for me. The formula is just lovely, and I have heard whispers here and there that this is a wet to dry formula. I haven't used it that way, but it does behave that way in that just really consistent, smooth way on the skin. I just found it to be, again, like an instant love, and I really like the packaging. It's very pretty. Yeah, this is gonna be a long video. I just realized that. I hope y'all are settled in with a nice little drink or something. So let's talk next about Tom Ford as a whole. I have 3 Tom Ford quads. I have Body Heat, Naked Pink, and Tiger Eye. Now, I know that Nude Dip or whatever is one of the famously loved ones, and I don't have that. If this is a brand and a specific delivery system, like a quad, right? A quad formula, quad concept that people stan, okay? It's very polarizing, and I know the comments, they're going to say, you don't have the right one. Or I need to adjust my expectations for the color saturation, like their lower pigment. I disagree. I just don't think they're for me. These are $89, I think, a piece. And yes, I have bought all 3 of these with my own money. And I'll start with the first one that I bought, which is Naked Pink. This is a limited edition one. I don't think you can get this anymore. I got this because it looked like the safest thing. It is so practical looking for me, except when these get on the skin, first of all, this loses out on formula because it has so little. Like, I am very pale in a shade range of foundations that has a gazillion shades. I will be the second lightest. I'm not quite at like Hannah Louise Poston or some, you know, porcelain Snow White kind of complexion. I'm just the next standard deviation. And you know, if this doesn't show up on me, who does it show up on? You know? Like, who's it for? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I don't understand this shade right here. It's almost red. It's like this weird desaturated clay peach color, and it just doesn't work on me. And so the only thing that is potentially exciting in this quad is this guy right here, the very, very shimmery kind of celestial shade. And even that is, I mean, it's very pretty, yes, but that's not worth me paying $89 for a quad for. I mean, that is just, I really dug my fingers in, and it's just really underwhelming. And I don't know, I think that there's some kind of, again, like loyalty to Tom Ford as a brand that makes people want to say like, that's the exception, not the rule, but like, it's the one that I own and the one that I spent $89 on. I want flawlessness, and this is not flawless. The next one here, I have Body Heat. This is one of the wet to dry ones. That's the reason that I bought it, was because I got a bunch of comments saying that this was the formula that I needed to try. And this is the one that I like the most, for sure. It is a much more luxurious formula, but much like the Chanel one I'm gonna show you all in a minute, and the original Dior quint that I bought, the new look one, these all have this quality of looking kind of like charcoal on me. Not that one, but that one. When they go on, they all sort of look muddy. They all kind of look the same. The other thing is, there's not really a lot of differentiation in the formula here. They're all sort of satin, one's a little bit matte. And so it's not just that the practicality of the texture doesn't work for me, but also that they're all medium. Yeah, okay, there's one kind of light one, but it's still not light enough to be a highlight on me. So it's just maybe not for my skin tone, and I would say that out of all three of these, like I said, this is the only one that I really think is like worth the money in terms of luxury, but it's still not for me, just because these shades just don't have enough contrast to them. And that's another thing that I feel like is underappreciated, or maybe just undervalued in conceiving of these palettes from a brand standpoint, is they don't always seem to understand that people do, especially in order to construct a foreshadow look, you need contrast, you need depth, and you need light. If they're all the same kind of medium value, like actual opacity, shade value, that saturation, that vividness, it doesn't really matter how you combine them, you're gonna kind of end up with mud, because they're all fighting each other. So that was my issue with this one. And then finally I have Tiger Eye, which is new. Tiger Eye is definitely different. It's got this beautiful silky softness that, oh boy, that first one did not have. That special edition one. It does have a tiny bit more contrast to it, but still not quite enough. And the differentiation in the textures, there really isn't any. The brown is technically more matte than the other ones, and so you can justify putting that in the crease. The lights are still pretty light. Not quite light enough for me to be able to get a really good highlight out of it. I'm still gonna, you know, need to pull out a highlighter for my inner corner or something. But altogether, this is not a bad situation. It's also just not particularly memorable. I think that, you know, if you use that gold on its own, that's great, but together they don't really make a very complete thought to me. It doesn't have in mind the way that, you know, most diagrams would present how to put together an eye look. You're gonna need something for the crease, you're gonna need something for a highlight, you're gonna need something for the middle, and then you probably want something fun, you know? And there's just not really like that here for me specifically. I don't know what his obsession is with throwing these odd peach shades into otherwise neutral palettes. Peach is not everybody's color. It's not some universal thing. Either way, I just don't feel like these things go together. But the formula is nice. So yeah, those are the three Tom Ford quads that I have, and I know that it's gonna sound like I'm just trying to pile on here, but at the same time, what I wanna do is set you up for success in not paying $89 for something that's not perfect. That's the whole thing with a luxury quad. Like I said, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. Okay, let's go even even more luxurious. Actually, I'm not sure. Are these, they might be around the same price, but these are actually our first quints of the bunch. I have 2 quints here from Byredo, okay? And I have some really bad news for you, and that is that these are really, really gorgeous. It's bad news because they're expensive. When I bought these, I had perfectly in mind, I was like, this one's going to be more tame and easier for me to wear, and this one's gonna be a little off the beaten path because that is a strange color story you don't see all that often. And granted, if this were a quad, it would have a disadvantage because you'd have to leave off something there, but they can tell a larger story because there's an extra pan. Nonetheless, I have to say, corporate colors, this is DYSCO, this is corporate colors. Corporate colors, man, wow. This is so good. This is so excellent and weird and different, and the way that it looks when it goes on is so unexpected. These are shades that I can really get excited about because they're very different, but somehow when you put them all together, they go. And I don't understand why. But that's what makes me really excited about makeup, is when I look at it and I'm like, I would not have imagined that, and somehow it works. Therefore, I need to think differently about makeup. Like, that's exciting to me, especially when it's making me think differently about color. So the star to me, even though it's not in the middle, is this one. It's this amazing cool taupe. It's ridiculous. Like, when you put this on, I mean, look at it. That's like a Dior shadow, like a Dior single, but just, you know, casually in a Byredo pan. And then also, like, I mean, look at that. I don't want to, like, you know, have fallout, literally fall out, but they're so insanely soft that when you dig your finger in there, you're just like, oh no, that's kind of sexy. Like, there's just something about them that interacting with them is just, it's really indulgent. And I would have expected nothing less. Now, I didn't do very aggressive swatches of the matte there. Let's try that again. But they're still fairly desaturated, which I do appreciate. They have a little bit of a funky texture to them in the sense that they're not completely matte. And they go on really smoothly, but they're not particularly opaque. And I just find that that works really well for me. That is a very actually layered up swatch, even though it looks skippy, but it's because the way that it reflects the light is actually kind of my skin tone. The way that this blends on the skin with a brush is awesome. It's a really, really slick formula, so you'll think that it's not gonna pick up on a brush, but it does. I just think they're really special. It's like getting little, like every one of these is its own little gift. It gives you so many options. Fantastic, fantastic, and the formulas are delicious. And then DYSCO, this is much more a typical fall palette. You know, you got this really warm gold. I'm serious, you guys. Like, when you sink a finger into these formulas, it's just intoxicating. Like, they're just, they're yummy. They're yummy, yummy, yummy. Oh, get real. So yeah, this one is like, the appeal is quite obvious. I don't have to make many explainers here, but more than anything, you know, this does do that thing where they're all sort of medium. And so I don't actually find myself reaching for this one as much. It's more of a, you know, if you really like this color story and you want to wear fall colors on your eyeballs all the time or something, and or you just want to use one at a time with the kind of pearly color as your highlight or something. But it's interesting because this is a very common and approachable color story for a lot of us, because it was just like, it's, you know, it's the fall colors. It's very popular, but it's the one that I actually reach for less because the contrast just isn't there. So it's kind of interesting in that respect. Like, I wish I could depot those and put those someplace else. This is not a palette you depot. So yeah, isn't that interesting? More user-friendly color story, but not so much on the textures. And then this is just like surprising in the color story, but it all somehow works. So hopefully that's valuable information. Let's talk about ATHR. ATHR started putting quads out 2020, I want to say. It was like, you know, she said, I have created a whole bunch of things that were my like very large visions, but now I want to edit them down into these little bite-sized palettes, and they are great, okay? So the formula is the same. I love an ATHR formula. They're all in this lovely, I think very aesthetically pleasing, but also eco-conscious zero waste packaging. She has moved from using the rubber band to just these ones that fit into themselves, but I have ones that I like better and ones that I don't use quite as much. So the ones that I don't use quite as much are like this one. This is the Ametrine. I love these shades, but again, we're talking about, and she does tend to focus on color stories. I have all of these because I get them in PR. She does tend to focus on color stories that are for specific skin tone values, and I really appreciate that because that means that it's not necessarily rushing to the middle, trying to be for everyone. There will be color stories that work better for some skin tones than others, and for that reason, like, you'll find one that you just adore, you know, no matter who you are. So this one is all in like mediums and deeps, and oh my gosh, like look at this color. Look at it, it's just so unbelievably beautiful. And she's really differentiated the textures in here. So you have a matte, 2 shimmers and a satin, I wanna say, or maybe 3 satins, I'm not sure. Either way, like this is a color story that really works for me on a conceptual level because you have the contrast, it's just not quite enough contrast for me. Then we have the Rose Quartz Quad. This is like Ametrine, but light. So for me. And if you like the Rose Quartz palette, you know, I don't think that you necessarily need to buy one of the quad. A lot of these are kind of edits, the same way a lot of small palettes like this are. There'll be edits of larger palettes, and obviously this one has the same name, but they are different shades, I think. This one comes in, you know, very, very handy for me for like traveling and stuff. But if I'm going to, like, since I have both, I'm gonna reach for the actual full Rose Quartz palette because it's honestly not that big to begin with. I mean, Rose Quartz is one of my favorite palettes that there is because it's just got so many desaturated shades that I can use straight from the pan onto my face, which is just not the case with a lot of them. I usually have to think around how to make something light enough for me so that I don't get myself in over my head really fast. And again, things being for certain people and not for others, like Rose Quartz, I'm not saying you can't wear it on deep skin, but you really can use it straight from the pan on fair skin, which is outstanding. And it has a lot of these really lovely cool tones in it. So this is the edited down version. It doesn't have quite as much of the like gray in it that the Rose Quartz full size does. So if those don't appeal to you, and these are the shades that do appeal to you, you've got a really nice pearly shimmer. You have that nice rosy neutral matte, and then you have these really gorgeous satins. Ugh, they're so pretty. So these are really easy to work with. I love her formulas. I love that she put these in like little affordable quads. All right, 2 more here. We have Topaz, another one that is a little bit more in the medium to deep category. It doesn't have, like I said, like you can look at it and you say, oh, okay, that doesn't have a super bright highlight shade. And the other thing about Topaz is that it doesn't have any mattes in it, which is a little bit odd to me. Beautiful colors though, especially for people who think that they kind of like might lean towards being able to wear green, but you don't want to go buy like a shamrock green palette. These are wearable greens. They're like that gold green or green brown, bronze kind of colors, patina, if you will, that look incredible on neutral to warm skin tones and brown eyes. And then finally, I saved my favorite for last. This one is so good. This is the Citrine Crystal Quad, and it is all of the excitement and a matte. It's these just like gorgeous goldfish kind of colors. I mean, citrine is one of my favorite things anyway. It's a color that I like to wear. It's a stone that I like to wear, but like, get real. Oh my gosh, it's just this beautiful, like it looks like a koi fish swimming under the water, and a light reflecting off of its scales. And it's got a matte, it's got a highlight, it's got a good medium shade, and it's got a lot of excitement. Super easy to work with, it's super easy to wear, and unlike the other ones, I feel like this would work on just about any skin tone. It might be a little dark for some of the like fairest skin tones, you might have to be a little bit careful with it, but that is super like punchy. I think it's gonna show up beautiful. Ooh, it would work beautifully on deep skin. You might have to pull out something dark to get a really, really good crease color, but the shades themselves will actually show up and not look ashy. So yeah, ranking them from, you know, least useful to most useful for me, I would go Ametrine, Topaz, Rose Quartz, and Citrine. And all this right here, all 4 of these is less than $100, so. Man, we still got a long way to to go. Okay, let's talk about some one-offs from indie brands real quick. So I have been getting to play with this recently. Obviously I haven't been doing a lot of shoving my fingers into these, except for this one, but you know, you can see the embossing is still on there, and that is because these are really lovely in their saturation. Like you just dip a brush in and they just blend for days. This is the Kaleidos Cold Brew Quad. And the thing that I love about this is, yes, we do have these 3 mattes, but that shimmer sends me. God, these are so velvety and saturated and gorgeous. Oh my heavens, they're pretty. And this is like that perfect cool toned neutrals color story for people who are like, why is everything warm toned? Like if you loved Going Coconuts from ColourPop, like this is like Going Coconuts but condensed down and a better formula. A much better formula. The whole story, really, you look at it and you're like, yes, I see exactly what I'm supposed to do with that. You know, like there are a lot of different options and you can get something really daytime out of it or really nighttime out of it. Like you could use just those 2 and get something really beautiful and wearable during the day and then like boom, drama. You could even use this darkest shade as an eyeliner on an eyeliner brush or something. And then this shimmer, I honestly want to compare really quickly. I'm not going to get too tedious on this, but I want to swatch it next to that Byredo color because, okay, they're not quite the same, but we're still in that kind of corporate colors concept here. Like it really looks like it would fit right in. So that shimmer from Cold Brew looks a little bit like that beautiful star shade from the Byredo palette I was talking about. So I love this. This was sent to me among a bunch of other things from Kaleidos, and this is the one that has risen to the top for me because I love when things are desaturated and mucky, and I'm a soft autumn, okay? Actually, for comparison's sake, the next one that I want to swatch is this one, and it is my newest one. It's the one I'm wearing today. So this is the 5 Colors Couture 509 Golden Bouquet from Dior, and this is the one that I was just talking about in my last video. Let's move that back. It's getting a little bright in here. And it's the one where I was like, they're all almost indistinguishable from one another, and then it's a quint, obviously. And then the center one is the one that stands out as being really dark. So there are 2 types of people. The people who like are afraid to use a palette that has really pretty embossing because they don't want to mess it up, and then there's people like me who like need to stick their hands in it and destroy it on purpose. Like I have these really weird thoughts about content that I could make, and one of them would be like chaotic unboxings, because like I watch all these really like dainty unboxings and I'm like, you should see me unbox luxury makeup. I'm just like, ugh, blah, you know? So here we have the new Dior, and here we have Cold Brew. These are different brands, obviously. Dior is much more like the luxury, old-fashioned, desaturated kind of formulas that came with the little sponge tip guys and the little brush and everything. And arguably, you know, this is the kind of makeup that is meant to be extremely subtle. That said, that's a pretty big jump to that brown. I mean, I'm not surprised about it. You can tell by looking at the palette, but like, it's a pretty big jump to the brown. The other thing is, it's funny that they call it gold because like, yeah, there's like one gold maybe, and it's a little shocking in context with the other ones. Like you put the other ones on and you're like, ooh, pearly, kind of sandy colors, and then you put that gold on and you're like, that's kind of like weirdly gold compared to everything else in the palette. So the other thing that I found with this palette, I used 3 different brushes. It was tough to blend. Especially tough to get that deep one to blend while also showing up, because oddly, it goes on really patchy and sheer, and there's not enough contrast in the other 4. It's like I'm sitting there talking about how all of them are too medium. This one's all too light and then one dark. I really expected it to go a little bit more medium in person. Like I had high hopes. The other problem here is, aside from this middle one, they're all satin shimmer. This is not a case of, you know, that soft mica minerality where it's blurring on the skin but not shimmery. It's shimmery everywhere. I cannot imagine this doing kind things for aging skin, okay? Like, I'm 35 and it's already like making me look like I put the wrong thing in the wrong place, you know? And I mean, there are no rules. I'm not telling you can't put shimmer all over, but I think from a Dior standpoint, if we're looking at it through the lens of the brand, they do tend to have a slightly older demographic. This Chantecaille is not, okay? Like, this is not giving me kindness to maturing skin. But oddly, these live in the same space in my brain because, I mean, yes, cold brew is obviously cooler, it's cold brew, but I do prefer the Kaleidos one. I just got this, it's 65 freaking honkers. Like, I don't think it's worth it. I don't. Leslie Moon, let me save you $65, okay? Don't do it. I did just buy the new Natasha Denona collection this morning. So that's coming. All right, let's talk briefly about the Thrive quads. I feel like I have talked about these, you know, for years and years, but not recently. So this happens to be the Focus Eyeshadow palette number 2. There are several of these. One that's all matte. By the way, I had an itch, so I scritched, and that's why I'm red. And then there are ones that also have like different textures in them. So this one happens to have like a matte, satin, like a sequin and a shimmer, and it is the cool toned one, and it is quite cool toned by comparison. Like, the black is actually a little bit navy. And the one thing that you will notice about a Thrive, especially the matte formula, they're a little bit more difficult to work with, and that's because they're waterproof and like crazy long wearing. That is the one thing that Thrive really like hinges on, is the wear time and the like tenacity and the quality of their formulas. And so that was something, especially when I was first starting out doing makeup, I found a little bit challenging about their matte formula. I was like, it's kind of hard to blend, especially if you use like a bigger brush. It just doesn't like spread evenly at first. You have to be a little bit more careful. It's kind of a more placement oriented matte formula, but it is totally saved by the shimmers, because the shimmers, just like anything else, the shimmers just are really, really easy to use, you know. Now we're gonna go into these James Molloy for Beauty Pie quads. I think these are delightful. You can get 3 of these. I think they're like $7. The prices change on Beauty Pie. I'm not even sure how it works, but sometimes the prices change basically. And when I got these, they were all like in the $17 range. And so you could get like all 3 of them for less than a Charlotte Tilbury quad. Now, these formulas are so delicious. They're so luxurious feeling. The thing that I think is a little bit interesting here is some of the choices that were made as far as a quad is concerned. Because you look at this and you're like, that's a really lovely, warm, brown quad. Like, sure, sell the garment. But, and this is, by the way, this is the number 3. And I noticed recently, you can tell which one is which because of the color of the lettering on the front. I never knew that before, but this one's gold, this one's silver, and this one's rose gold. It's subtle, but it's there. So beginning with gold, I love everything about this palette, but this is weird. That this white, this pearl goes green, strange choice. That the darker of the 2 kind of medium colors has a touch of green to it. Interesting choices. It's kind of like I always say, you know, when a musician plays a note you can't hear just because they know what the completed chord is and they need to complete it in their brains because they have like so much theory that everything is like anchored in their brains. This is like a note you can't hear. I don't know why he did this, but I trust him, you know? And I love the way that this wears. I love the way that it goes on, and it's got that same just like unctuous, luxurious feeling to it like the Byredo shadows do, where you touch into like this brown one right here and it's just like, ugh, it's amazing. It's like dripping velvet. But that green's a little bit weird. Just a little bit weird. I like it a lot. I do, but I just want to kind of like caution you if you look at that and you think it's just going to be any run-of-the-mill little quad. Now let's talk about the cool toned one, because it is also like shockingly wearable. Shockingly wearable, you know, in the category of cool tones that I didn't know that I could wear. This one also, I mean, they're just yummy, okay? They're just yummy freaking formulas. Again, they really have a strength in the fact that they have so much breadth of contrast in the actual shades in only 4 pans. So like that neutral taupe color, you almost can't see it, like, cause it's almost the color of my skin. You have this deep, almost black like brown gray, like an espresso color almost. This one's actually a really lovely like satin formula, and then that shimmer is like bright silver. It's super comparable, I do feel, to the Cold Brew palette, right? Like those look super, super similar, but I would argue that the James Molloy one is even cooler. But they're very, very similar. And finally, honestly, the easiest one for me to use because it is totally dystopian cowgirl fortune teller realness is the rose gold one. This color right here, this ruby tone kind of, that's dystopian cowgirl fortune teller. If you're new to my channel, that's kind of my like alter ego. There's the rose gold, and this is like that, I mean, granted, I have this shade in a lot of palettes. It's in a lot of things because I like wearing it, but it's so functional in this context. It's like if this is the star of the show of a really sultry eye look, you're gonna be able to build a medium tone here, get your, you know, crease shade here, and a really lovely highlight shade there, and they're the right textures. Like to me, and honestly, even watching James Molloy's Instagram videos and things, to me, he does makeup exactly how I would do makeup if I had as much experience and as many skills as he does. Like his instincts are the same as mine. And so it makes sense that I would like his quads so much because it seems like he just uses makeup that I would use, you know, if I were building a kit or something. Like every time I watch one of his videos, I own all the makeup that he has, which I guess isn't that big of a stretch because I own so much makeup, but the way that he applies it, the choices that he makes, like I'm always watching him just like, yes, yeah, that is exactly what I would do, except he's better at it. You know what I mean? I don't want to like put myself on his level of like genius, but at the same time, his decisions with these quads make perfect sense to me because I truly like, I super vibe with his aesthetic. Like it really resonates with me. So I like these very, very muchly. If you are a Beauty Pie member, I highly recommend. Oh, that's coming off for a minute. Sometimes it squeezes your brain so much that you can't think, you know? Next, let's talk about ROEN. So I have here 3 ROEN palettes. I have 1111, the 75 Degrees Warm, and Mood Forever. Now, for those of you who don't have context on the ROEN journey, Nikki DeRoest angel on this earth started this brand, and she had this unbelievable vision for these extremely unique and groundbreaking, very wearable, like easy to apply, user-friendly, beginner-friendly, but also just off-the-charts crazy textures, formulations for her products. And she came out with an eyeshadow formula that just knocked everybody's socks off. The first liquid lip balm that I ever tried, which was just like, again, off the charts. The colors were on point, the packaging was on point, the luxury experience was on point. And when I touched one, I was like, all right, I need more, basically. Then, as it sometimes happens, she was pushed out of the company, and they have continued to try to iterate, but I think that they can't use her exact formulas. And so things have just gotten a little more watered down to me. All that to say, I have still kept all of these around, and there is a reason for that. This is like the OG right here. So 75 Degrees is just out of control. And the thing that these quads have is like a cream texture. This is the first and only actual committed cream texture that I have here to talk to y'all about today. And the way that these go on is like nothing else in the world because they're actually like unabashedly inconsistent. Some of them, like they have this amazing like hunky chunky kind of rock and roll vibe. The way that they go on, you just kind of smash them all over your eye and you look cool. That's just how they work. Even me. Even a girl who can't wear smudgy things very well, you smash these on your eyes and you look cool, okay? And that's just what they have going for them. So 75 Degrees Warm is obviously warm. It's got these beautiful copper shades in it. Very nuanced, very pretty. And again, this is not necessarily in the same ballpark as, you know, a James Molloy quad or something where it's like, oh, I need a matte, another matte, a shimmer, and a satin. You know, in these kind of, like, this is totally different. This is just, you know, again, dip it in, smear it on in low lighting, doesn't matter, throw some mascara on. That's kind of the idea. Then we have 1111. Oh my Lord in heaven. This is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's got this like awesome kind of green patina gray in there with these pinks and peaches. And as you're, you know, if you're a color theory nerd like I am, then you can see that like these two pinks right here are more cool toned. And then we've got this like warmer kind of orangey peach. And then almost this just like, you know, nickel color essentially. And oddly, these work on me. Ugh. And this is one of the chunkiest shades that I feel like she made. So this pink is just like ridiculously chunky. We got this peach that's a little bit smoother. That gray that is just kind of see-through and awesome. It's just kind of mucky. And then that like really beautiful glittery rosy pink that has a little bit of like almost a purpley shift to it. And you can just see how any of those lends itself to smashing it on your eyeball and looking cool. Even if you look a little bit like unhinged, like I feel like they're a little bit unhinged in the best way possible, you know? They're like meant to be shot in low light with flash, basically, but like they look cool in real life. Like look at that color. That color right there excites me so much. Ugh, bleh. After the fact, they came out with Mood Forever, and I was so cynical. I was like, fine, this will be my purchase to prove that I'm right, you know, that the formulas have suffered X, Y, and Z. And they are different, but they are still really pretty. They don't have that breath of life that Nikki DeRose gave to the brand and to her formulas, but they are nonetheless beautiful, okay? Now we have something that's a lot more consistent. We have something that does a lot more multi-chrome. These are dupable. You know, I would much rather now pay for a Pat McGrath or a Danessa Myricks shadow instead of going for something like this, but they're undeniably beautiful. And the color story here does do a little bit more of the like light and dark. But again, these are just kind of meant to be, I feel like they're meant to be played with. They're not necessarily meant to be applied the way that I have my eyeshadow done right now in, you know, a sculpted way. It's just not gonna do that. It's not meant for that. So while this is different, I do admit that they are really beautiful, especially those top two with just the way that they shift in the light. Victoria Beckham Beauty is next. I almost didn't even think about these as quads. They're just this like unique little thing. I'm gonna just say it. These are underwhelming. I don't reach for them. I think silk is boring. Like I don't find this to be useful. I guess it's too warm, but let me go ahead and swatch these for you. Like I really loved these at first because I was in the clean beauty bubble. I was like, these are really good and really luxurious in a way that I have not experienced at all through 2019 because I had been using nothing but clean beauty eyeshadows and they were all extremely underwhelming. Like there was nothing luxurious about any of the formulas and they were super overpriced. And so when I tried this, I was like, oh my gosh, a matte that actually works. It's so pretty and it's so nice. I can use it straight from the pan. Boring. It's boring, okay? And there's nothing shimmery, there's nothing pearly, there's nothing in here that gives me a full look when I'm traveling. Like they're all medium. And then we have Silk, which is all shimmery. Come on. That's like the Makeup by Mario mistake, where he did all mattes and all metallics and different palettes. And I was like, right, but who's gonna do that? Like who's gonna buy both so that they can, I did, and I'm an exception, not a rule. So the fact that Silk gave you the most of just a white, like a pearl beige, strange. And then everything else is so daggum warm. I don't know. It just doesn't really do it for me. Like this to me looks like the beta test of this. You know, it looks like right before they decided, let's make a couple of adjustments and make it better. Because it really looks so much like the James Molloy Gold. It's just, this one's just got better textures in it. Even her white shift screen. You know, sorry, I'm doing that to block my eyes so that the camera focuses properly, but even her white shift screen. So yeah, I mean, go for that. So yeah, I don't think those are worth it. I think that they're overpriced. I think that they're just kind of not that useful. Another luxury palette that I don't understand. This is the Chanel one, and I talked about this in like my worst of the year or whatever, I think. It's another one that like, for whatever reason, and I got Blurry Mauve in this. This is the Le Quatre Ombres, Blurry Mauve. They're like all charcoal on me. And it's a shame because the formula is delightful. It goes on so smoothly, you just touch your finger in there and it's just this really lovely, like glide on, very consistent formula. They're all matte. I mean, I don't object to that. I'd rather all matte than all shimmer, but there's no excitement there and they're all medium. They are all medium. Even the light one they say is like, and maybe that will work for, you know, deeper skin, but there's not a deep one either. You know what I mean? They're just all kind of like bleh in the middle. And so it makes this just kind of muddy, mucky mess when you put it on. I have tried looking at their website. I wanted to try and buy another one because I do like the formula. Either the color story doesn't make sense to me or they're sold out. They're always stinking sold out. So that's why I haven't bought more of them. There is one that's got kind of coral shades to it that I find interesting, intriguing, but I have yet to be able to find it in stock anywhere. And even I am susceptible to, hello? Even I am susceptible to reacting sometimes to my own collection and saying, well, I mean, I don't really need that. You know what I mean? Like, I know I like the formula. I just wonder if like any color story from Chanel is ever gonna knock my socks off to the point where I'm like, yes, I'm going to spend Chanel money and get that little quad, you know? This is the LH Cosmetics Shimmer Saga. This is a very different kind of quad, but it warrants mentioning because obvious reasons. Oh my God. Like, it looks like it should just go with what I'm wearing right now if I wanted everything to match, you know? But like, these are off the charts, multi-chrome, just indulgence. They're so beautiful. And I have said it before, I'll say it again, the design on her packaging doesn't thrill me. I invite anyone to look past that. It has nothing to do with what's inside because these are just ridiculous. They're so much fun. They're so much fun. We have one that kind of goes blue gold, and then we have one that goes kind of like green, orange, a pink that goes a little bit, what would that be? Blue. And then like a blue, green, purple down here. And I love that they're translucent. So they're literally all toppers. You can just blow your own mind with any of them. In fact, I think we go with this one because it's got that little bit of like an orange shift to it, because this eye look is so underwhelming. That one's called Success, and I'm just gonna really wipe my finger off first before I do that because these things can take over. They are so high quality. Look at that. Just such a subtle difference in terms of the amount of product I put on, but like adds so much more visual interest. Just makes it something that I suddenly care about. See, now I care about that. Can't say enough about it. It's expensive, it's $42. But on Beauty Bay, they had it on sale. I think you can get it on sale a few places, but I do actually think that it's worth it. It's just lovely. And all multi-chromes are all expensive. That's just how it is. I have two here from Makeup by Mario. This is the one quad that I kept from like his original quads, and then this is the Foreplay Everyday. So let's start with the one that I kept here. This is the Glam Quad Bronzy Glam. And they all came in like different, you know, glam color varieties. These are great. They're really, really pretty. Again, I dogged on him a second ago because he originally put out like an all mattes palette and an all metallics palette. And I did end up with both of them, but like I could totally understand why someone wouldn't want to do that. Now, this is really cool because like you're talking bronze, a lot of people forget that bronze tends to have green in it. And like that is just the ultimate green gold. And the contrast here works. The fact that this is technically, I think, a matte works. These are not particularly expensive, and the pans are enormous, and the textures are exciting, and I love his eyeshadow formula. It has this unbelievable grip to it. So I don't mean necessarily when you're putting it on, but when you like dip your finger in it, you feel it kind of grip you. You feel like it really grips you. No, you feel it kind of grip your finger, especially with the Foreplay Everyday. I'll get to it in a second, because like as you're putting them on, you just notice that they blur and they wear all day. And so they're a little more subtle. They don't have like some of the like most like you want some of the metallics, you can do his crystal reflectors, or you can do his metallic palette and things like that. And these do have like, you know, the mixture of the textures, which I appreciate, but the way that they wear, they are so flattering. Like they just look good on skin, you know, and they make your skin look improved. So I appreciate that. All right, and the other one from Makeup by Mario, which is just a rock star to me. It's like the essence of the most perfect boring quad. Like this sums it up for me. This is the Foreplay Everyday, the Nude one. You know, there are several of these. The easiest, most intuitive, if I were putting it together a palette, here's how I would do it, because I'm gonna give you my reasons. So we have the right amount of differentiation in like light and dark. We also have this lovely, I'm trying to swatch it again here, this lovely in between pinky mauve color that looks so at home on my skin. But we also have warmth. I'm always talking about temperature, right? And I'm like, oh, this is a cool palette, this is a warm palette. My ideal is to have enough of both that are close enough to each other that they don't, like, you know, make everything look muddy, but enough of both that you can use the warmth and the coolness to your advantage to build a believable illusion, or maybe better than believable, you know? But warmth comes towards you, coolness recedes, and that's all relative. So it doesn't have to mean that you're wearing gray in your crease. It can be as simple as this. It can be as simple as putting this in your crease because it's more of a mattified cool tone, and then using this relatively warm, but still pretty like muted down gold on top of, like, on the lid or something, and it's going to really enhance the illusion of like the depth and the brightness of your eyes. Super appreciate that. But then you also have, honestly, I know it's so boring, but I like when something has a really great creamy white to it that I can use to like back myself out of trouble. That's what I want to travel with. And then this brown, you guys know, I need to do like a everyday makeup tutorial of like my everyday look, because it features very prominently anything in this shade of brown, because that's my like sultry bedroom eyes look that I feel like makes me look the sexiest. This shade comes in a lot of different formulas that all seem to work really well, but I'm really glad it's included in here. Like, this can give me every look that I would want to do on like a trip. Like, I could get something really beautiful and sultry out of it. I could get something very, very wearable in daytime out of it, and I would never like be unexcited about using it. So it's hands down. What in the hell was that? The formula is gorgeous. This is just such a winner, and it's so small. It's so small. I love this thing. Such a little sleeper hit. And last but certainly not least, in fact, this is pretty much the thing that inspired the entire video, and that is the Charlotte Tilbury Exaggereyes Bigger, Brighter Eyes Filter. This is one of her many quads. She has so many, and they're like, when I bought this, I think it was $53, and there is truly something for everybody. I was dogging on her in my last video talking about how everything is pink and brown, everything's pink and brown. Her quads, she's got green. She's got other things probably. These actually do run the gamut. We're getting close to the end, so I'm going to muscle through with my headband on for the rest of the time. I adore this, okay? And for a lot of the same reason that I adore that Makeup by Mario one. I mean, if you look at those two shades, her rosy color and his kind of rosy color, they're part of the same idea. Hers is much deeper, but it's also really nice and sheer. When I use her quad, I find that it's actually kind of hard to get drama, because that's actually the deepest shade in the whole quad, was that color. So that's actually your shadow builder. And then let's just watch all of it, obviously. As much as I do love to poke fun at Charlotte Tilbury for being kind of a one-note queen, this is a very functional use of her skills. Her quads are very effective, and I will never forget, there are just comments that live rent-free in my brain till the end of time, and one of them was after I just gushed over this color because I was like, this just doesn't exist anywhere else. I'm like, maybe I'm being a little bit too over the top. And that commenter said she had panned that shade and now she was like over a barrel, being like, well, what am I supposed to do? Do I have to go pay $53 and rebuy this quad just because I love this one color and I can't find it anywhere else? That's how unique and important this shade is to some of us. So I love that color. The shimmery kind of medium tone rosy gold. I mean, that's just such a nice neutral wearable shade on my skin, and it blends out really nicely without being too glittery. I do like that. And then we have a really lovely pearly shade that is actually light enough for me to use as a highlight on the inner corner or on my brow bone or something, and I could also construct an entire look around it. And the Celestial, her Celestials are a little underwhelming compared to like the Wayne Goss ones. Let me swatch a Wayne Goss one. So here's the original one from Wayne Goss's Imperial Topaz. He's always reviewed Charlotte Tilbury's stuff, and you can just tell that he wanted more. That's his Celestial right there, and it's just a lot more. It's just juicier, it's more emollient. They're so unbelievable. And then yeah, hers are fine. They're fine, but they're a little bit more subtle. They have a little bit of that like baked crunchiness that you get from the Pat McGrath Special shades, but just way toned down. Just like super toned down. So yeah, This is not a perfect quad because I don't feel like it gives me the depth that I would want in order to make several looks with it, but the look that I do get from it is very pretty. And I just want to speak to the formula here. I don't own any other ones of this formula, but her formula is very pretty, and I invite you to go like look at these. I always love to be able to talk about something where there is just a menagerie of options, because it means that you can really find something that's perfect for you. So yeah. Wow. Well, those are all of my eyeshadow quads. I hope that this was fun and helpful for y'all, right? Like I said, I think quads and quints in some cases are a very unique presentation structure. If a quad isn't exactly what you need it to be, you'll never look at it again. And if it is what you need it to be, you'll never look at another palette again. If you're like a regular makeup user, like it might become the thing that, again, you pan it and you buy it again. I hope that this was valuable. Maybe it introduced you to some that you hadn't seen before, or helped you rule some out that might have been on your list to try. If you did enjoy this, I would really appreciate it if you gave the video a thumbs up. I would also appreciate it if you're not already subscribed, if you did hit the button down below and subscribe. That would be fantastic. I put out 3 videos a week usually, and they're long form things you can listen to in the background if you want. They're just a lot of fun. And I want to thank y'all for watching and hanging out with me today. I love y'all so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.